Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is an unrehearsed look into my creative process. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, designer, and your pal. And I'm excited to have you back again for another fun episode of creating 3D and digital art on the fly. Episode 186, the question of the week today is, have you started working on anything new while social distancing? And we've all got a lot of perhaps recently found free time on our hands, time when we're not commuting or doing other work-related things. And some of us have been taking up new hobbies and, I don't know, learning to play guitar, for example. Myself, I've been doing these little landscape studies, which have been really fun. Simple little watercolor and pencil kind of sketches. You can check those out on my Instagram account if you want. They're live on the stories. I'd just be curious to hear what other sort of little creative exercises or things folks are working on to keep themselves busy and to have a little fun. Trying some new things this week. I have the camera going, so let me know what you guys think of that. It takes up screen real estate, so that's sort of a downside, but maybe people like seeing a friendly face while social distancing. They really should call it physical distancing because we're obviously social distancing, but it's the virus cares less about the social distancing and more about the physical distancing and contact. But anyway, I digress. This week, we're going to be working on sort of a reinterpretation of this little illustration that I have up. There's this artist who you may know who I really dig called T-Way. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly, unfortunately, because it's the first time I've ever read it out loud instead of just reading it. But he did this little drawing of a person isolated in their home and sort of sent out the challenge on Instagram to #draw this stupid house in your style. And folks have been sending in sort of their versions of it. And it's always fun to have these sort of common creative prompts and to look through and compare how different artists and different mediums sort of interpreted that. And I thought it'd be fun to take a crack at doing one ourselves. So this week we're going to be doing our little version of this little house character. Range of styles, range of different qualities. If you don't know this artist, you should definitely check them out on Instagram. They do very, very cool work. And so let's get into it. Let's #draw this in your stupid style. And if you guys are looking for something to do, I would highly recommend making one as well. It'd be really interesting to see what everyone comes up with. So that being said, let's dive in. I mean, I think this will be fairly simple to model in a lot of ways, but it'd be fun to sort of reinterpret that. So let's see what the deal is. I'm only showing that I'm connected to 2 or 3 things here. Let's see what's connected, what's not. Looks like Periscope is not connecting. Oh well. Forge on without them. All right. So what do we have here? So let's just start with a little cube, yeah? I'm going to be referring back to this frequently. Cool. Just got a little cube. Let's make a little roof. That'll be simple. I'm going to turn on this line shading so I can see that. What I'm going to do is subdivide it down the middle, expand it, grab that central subdivided area, scoot it up, boom, house. And actually what I should probably do, let's just go ahead. Here's a little workaround because I kind of want things set up differently. So I'm going to copy this, delete that. I'm going to hit undo until I go back to the unmodified cube. There we go, cool. So I'm going to paste that back in. So now I've got that older version. Just did a little undo time travel, let's call that. What's up, Movies Apex? How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Trying some different things this week. Let me know if you like the inclusion of the camera or if you think that's just kind of a waste of screen space. Back in the day, maybe 75 or 100 episodes, I did have the camera rolling while I was streaming. And then it's been a while since I've used it at all. I have moved away from using that during the live streams, but decided to, try something new. So let me know what you think of it. Help me to improve my texture. Okay, I will try. Depends on what you're into, though. A lot of my texturing winds up being fairly simple. I'm not a big realistic textures guy. I like adding noise to things. I assume you're talking about the textures of your model and not your personal texture. So let's see here. One thing that I think is underutilized, or something I wish that I had learned quicker in cinema, is that you can use the scale tools to really reposition things and to line things up. So I have these, I did an inner extrude, and I have this peaked shape in the center of my house, which is not what I want. I want this square shape. But I can grab all three of these and just scale them down horizontally, holding shift so I get an exactly to 0. And now those form a straight line. I use that little technique very frequently. It's a handy one. Oops. Let's push that in. Huh. We have a duplicate cube here, which is weird. An extra. Don't need it. I'm going to extrude that inward. I think I'm just going to delete it, actually. All right. So that's fun. Let's put the little character in there. This is actually the first time I've ever participated in one of these, draw this in your style challenges. In Instagram, but you didn't replay. Huh. I didn't reply. I typically reply to everyone's comments. I try to, at least. Apologies if I didn't get to yours. Let's see. I'm going to try something a little different for the eyes here. Oh, Instagram message, like a direct message. I might not have gotten that. I don't always check my Instagram direct messages, to be honest. I mean, how to improve, just generally speaking. Vedant Hedge. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. I appreciate that. Generally speaking, materials are a mix between the lighting that you have and the material itself. It's hard to say exactly how to improve a material. It depends on what you're going for, If you want realistic stuff, unfortunately, I don't think I'm the guy to give you that info. I've done a little bit of that stuff before, but not my strong suit. All right. Yeah, I mean, just to improve your material, it'd be good to know sort of what you're after. You know, does it not look realistic enough? Is it not bumpy enough? Is it not red enough? Well, that's cool. Thanks for tuning in. Lots to learn. It's lucky you're getting started so early, I suppose. But yeah, I think you'll need to be. I mean, apologies, I haven't read your message yet, but I'd say you might need to be more specific in your request. Um, golly, these are in weird positions. I'm just going to zero this stuff out. All right, there we go. So let's throw this into a connect object. I might reuse this shape for the eyes as well. Whoops, not a connect. I always do that. The icons are so similar. Let's check it out. Here's a symmetry and here's a connect. They're right next to one another. Same with the bool too. They're really similar. Okay, I want that in a symmetry, not in a connect. All right, so let's model a very simple hand here. And you know what? I'm going to go simple 3-finger hand. I'm going to grab these 3 top edges, or polygons, I should say. I'm going to extrude them, but I'm going to make sure that preserve groups is turned off. And then I'm going to throw it in a subdivision surface, and you'll see it'll smooth out and separate those individual extrusions. So I want these fingers to curl over a little bit. I'm going to give them some more subdivisions, and I'm just going to kind of position them by hand. I'll do one more extrusion. All right. Very simple little hand. I'll probably go on to modify this a little further. Let's get it in position and see how it works. Get it in that symmetry. Yeah, I think that's going to work fine, actually. Fun times. It's kind of funny that the house is waving here, not the little person on the inside. All right. Now let's do some very simple legs for this house. I'm talking real simple. I really like how these are done. Now, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy or bad. Sometimes simpler is harder than complex. This one probably won't be, to be honest, but so I'm just going to make a loop cut. Extrude these feet out. And put the whole thing in a subdivision surface. I think what I want to do is add a little bit of rounding to the edges of these dudes in the house. So I'm just going to use a bevel object, bevel deformer. Click use angle, make it a little larger, and give it a few subdivisions. Whoops. We'll get into some test rendering soon, I think. Yeah, for sure. Vedin Hedgie asks if he can talk to me on Instagram, and absolutely can. I try to answer most of the questions that come in. Sometimes I miss them, and I don't always check the DMs super consistently, so apologies there. I'm really good about responding to the comments in YouTube, so if you have questions, obviously hit me up. I've even gone so far as to respond to emails that people send me with more, more in-depth questions. So I'm going to modify this hand from the inside character to be like the house. And this should be fairly simple. So let's throw in a camera real quick. I think I kind of like this camera angle. This is a starting place. I'd also say anyone who's just tuning in, we are working on this little house character from the brilliant artist TY, who is asking everyone to draw this house in your stupid style. And he is sharing the results in his Instagram stories, and it's really cool to see the wide variety of creations that people are making. Lots of different cool ones, lots of different styles. So you guys should make one too, if you want. All right, so, whoops. No. I'm going to make some more extrusions, but I'm going to turn preserve groups off again. Wait a minute, nope. I want preserve groups on. I guess I did this in a different file, which is why the settings are slightly different. There we go. Let's go back to that original. There she is. Cool, cool, cool. Modeling hands can definitely be tricky. Oops. No, I don't really use Slack. Sorry, bud. So there's kind of some lines here indicating like paneling or shingles. I might try and make something similar to that. Let's see. All right, so let's take a cube. So there's a shingly kind of effect. All right, we can zero that out in this orientation. We need to widen it, of course. I think what we'll do is just Boolean out the pieces we need. So should cover that. All right, now let's see what's the best way to do this. Whoops, wrong one. What's up, Maris? Thanks for tuning in. Those of you just joining, what we're working on is an interpretation of this, where the very awesome two-way artist has asked people to hashtag draw this stupid house in your style. That'll be a fun exercise. So that's what we're working on. All right, so we've got a duplicate of this house. And I'm actually going to get rid of this window. I'm going to use this, hopefully, as the volume in a bool to isolate that siding where we need it to be. So let's see what we can do here. We need to make it deeper. Throw that in the Boolean. Okay. Now we set the Boolean to a subtract. Now let's play in here. Figure out what we need. There we go. A intersect B. Okay. So now you can see it's obviously it's trimmed off the top bits, which is good. That's what we want. I think what we also need to do is add in the little window shape. Actually, let's see. Did I mess that up? Did I just extrude this back? Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. Should have left that shape in initially. The problem is we get this, kind of wonky overlapping stuff, which isn't great. And I think I'm going to do kind of a cheat move. But actually, this is kind of what real builders do. So maybe it's not that much of a cheat move. Maybe it's super realistic. I'm just going to kind of trim that out and cover it. I'm going to cheat, sort of. So let's go to the actual house. Where's that house shape? We'll do a loop selection. Copy and paste that UI to select the inverse. Now I've got just this shape. I'm going to hit D for extrude, press create caps. Bam, I've got like window trim. I can use to cover this up. I'm going to make it, deeper. Bigger. Press UL for the loop selection tool. I'm just going to scale the inside of this down a little bit. Cool. I'm wondering, does it make sense to add that to this beveled thing? I don't know. Yeah, I think it does. But now that it's beveled, I want it even bigger. Okay. All right. What do you think? There's our little house character. I think this guy on the inside needs to be bigger. I'm just going to scale him up. And I'm going to scale those hands down. It's a little too deep here. It's kind of pressing up against this guy's belly. Cool. We can bring the character out a little bit. All right. Getting someplace. Cutie. All right. Let's try this. Let's go a little larger so we can see it a little better. Let's think about how we want to light and, texture this bad boy. I'm going to start very simply. What you can do is grab that eyedropper. Well, I've done this before. Eyedrop directly from another thing. It's not working though. I think this is what we need to do. Boom. See that? I don't like to keep default specular. I find that it's a little kind of blah. I'm just going to turn it down. Just a touch of the specular. Oops. Now first, I think I'm just going to start with the same colors that TY uses. Not copying. Whoops. All right, one more. Hey, SK Robert. Thanks for the comment. I'm glad you found them useful. Yeah, you're welcome. Appreciate you tuning in. It's really good to hear. All right. Definitely some more work to be done. No lighting yet. One thing I'm noticing before I get into lighting is that I'm seeing some of the siding and stuff through this window, which is not what I want. So I'm gonna grab these interior surfaces and extrude them inwards. Also, since I'm extruding them in the opposite way, the normals are pointing in the wrong direction. So while I've still got the selection made, I'm just going to press U and R, which is going to inverse my normals. And they should be, in Cinema 4D at least, they should be orange when you're seeing the normals. You can hit undo. You can see they're blue now. That's how you know they're pointing in the wrong direction. That's supposed to be the inside of a hull. So undo that. Get your normals all good. This shoulder thing is still visible. That I think is more of an issue with the size of the shoulder itself. Kind of hide that dude. Maris asks, do I work only in 3D modeling? No, I don't. I work in a creative suite a lot, and I really like drawing. And it's funny, the question of the week this week is, have you started working on anything new while social distancing? I know a lot of people are in the house, kind of bored, and they don't know what to do with themselves and are trying new creative things. And what I actually have been doing is busting out the watercolors for the first time in a really long time. I'm doing some little watercolor and pencil studies that you can check out on my Instagram page that are actually been really fun, really calming, simple little geometric landscapes. Planning to share more of those, and I actually ordered some nicer paper. I was doing them on this kind of crappy construction paper for a while there, so I ordered myself some nicer paper, and I'm excited to do sort of larger, nicer versions of those studies. Check them out. Tell me what you think. Hmm. You can see that leg through the house as well. Dang it. I messed up by not just extruding the floor while I was at it. We can do that now. I'm going to have some really nasty overlapping geometry in here, but I kind of don't care. This is not for like production pipeline model building. Do as I say, not as I do. Also going to push the top of this foot down a bit too. And hide it. Scale it down a touch. All right. Cool. Now let's add some lighting. Let's think. What do we like? I think I'm just going to do a big area light and a spotlight. Also, you may have noticed this in previous episodes, but if you're new here, what I like to do is use my camera sort of as a dividing mark in my file structure, my object structure. I usually put things like lights and background objects, not real geometry, underneath the camera, and all my actual model above the camera. Okay, so that's looking a little flat and kind of gross. Shadows are super harsh, so on this area light, I'm going to turn the shadows down. I'm going to add some blue to them as well and just soften them up a bit. And then turn the area shadows on here. Let's see what we get. Too much yellow. Okay, so that's looking better. Let's try it with GI. Now, I think that's going to improve things quite a bit. I like to add a little bit of luminance to my textures frequently, at least with this kind of scene. And what you can see it does is kind of fills in some of the shadows so they're a little bit lighter. It kind of gives you a more even and a little bit more of a cartoony flat look. It's not super realistic. I'm noticing my new extrusion is kind of visible underneath those shutters. What I'm going to do is move them all down slightly. Should I bring, yeah, I changed my mind. I'm going to bring this guy up instead. And you know what I think is happening? Is that our normals were messed up, and because the normals were messed up, things are breaking. Yeah, all the overlapping and everything is breaking the base cube. Let's see, this guy, because of this bevel deformer. If I just pull him out, we won't actually need a bevel deformer on that guy anymore because all of this stuff has rounding, and you can't really, you can't see the edges anymore. You know, the roof's rounding is visible. So are these side pieces of siding. So I'm just going to pull that guy out, and then grab all this, most of it at least. Just scoot it up. Okay, better. How's that for a very simple cheat code to mirroring? I can't believe I got all my coordinates right too. All right. So the reason I pulled those guys out is I want to reposition one of these hands. Oops. Let's do this as well. Move the axis. Shoulder area is just going to make it way easier to position. Definitely going to have to get in and modify this. But much of it isn't visible actually, so. Reposition the axis again. It's all right. Another great shortcut I use all the time is UY, which grows your selection. Instead of selecting all those bits individually, I just go UY. Just get more and more of the finger progressively as I move back. Now that is why I was getting a weird bend there. See how that treats us a little better maybe. You can find my email on my website here. I'm not on WhatsApp. I think we need a little more variation in the colors here. What's up, everybody? People just tuning in, working on doing our own variation of this. This artist challenged us to draw this stupid house in your style. Having fun actually making a little 3D rendition of it. Working on texturing these hands. All right. I'm just using a simple gradient to add a little bit of pink to the fingertips. Make sure it's in simpler projection. Go flat here. I can just rotate it by using this tool here. Just grab the texture in 3D space and position it as I need it. That's another thing I wish I knew about earlier. Right, let's try that out. I'm not sure if I like these style of eyes. I'm going to try a different style, just for shits and gigs. I'm going to try a different style of mouth while I'm at it here too. Ah, yes. Glad that worked out for you, SK. That's the thing with the practice. It's not exactly a tutorial. There's plenty to learn here, but I don't try to limit myself to doing certain things. I like to really view this show as, like I said in the beginning, an unrehearsed look into my creative process. I'll come in with a rough idea of what I want to make, but then I'll just make it. Everyone can watch. And sometimes I fail, actually. But you learn, and it's a challenge to myself, so I enjoy doing it. Really amp up this smile, make them look ridiculous. Yikes. Hey Amir, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I hear you, SK. It's useful just watching other artists' work, I think, in general. Probably the same is true for painters or people who like to work in pencils. Even if it's not an explicit tutorial, just watching them work can be revealing. Adjusting the camera slightly so we get a little bit more of that interior character in there. Oops. Another cool little workflow tip is if you double click on an object, you can select things further down in the hierarchy. It doesn't work all the time, I've noticed, but it works with symmetry objects. Like, I select this and, oh wait, that's not in the symmetry anymore, but yeah, I select this foot and it selects the symmetry object. Then I double click on it, it'll select the individual feet. So that's a good one. Thanks. Yeah, I think the new face is working better than the old one. Needed to be simpler and more ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I turned off AO using a compositing tag. Then I forgot that I would lose that contact shadows by the feet, which I do really want. Hey, Santiago. Appreciate that. I'm going to try just adding a little bit of a texture to this guy. This may or may not work. I still feel like it needs a little something, a little extra detail. Shoot. What's up, EDZ? No, I really don't use other rendering engines, believe it or not. Just playing with the focal length of the camera here, the size of the character and the composition. This is a little bit of an experiment here. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. As you can see, this house, it's sort of structural, and it has its sort of isometric perspective, but it is also kind of wonky and twisty, and has this sort of organic life to it. So I'm wondering now, can I use some deformers? Because this, as it stands now, this guy, he looks pretty cool, but it's very, very geometric, very straight lines, very straight up and down. Now the problem is he is not subdivided enough. So I'm wondering if I just throw this whole guy in a subdivision surface. I don't think that's not what we want. Let's see if we just go in and manually add some subdivisions. I think that might work. Let's see. You notice before I started doing all this, I made a copy of everything and turned it off, just in case. I thought for sure you could go to a negative value on Spherify. Let's just use a bulge instead. All right, so what do you guys think? Any better with those mild deformations? I think so, actually. Let's compare the two. This guy. Let's turn him off too. Do the next rendering like that. Cool, thanks, man. Yeah, I think I'm with you too. All right, a little subsurface scattering on this character, which will make a big difference in how the light sort of bounces around inside the object. I also think I want to make these little curtains. So let's think. Let's just work with this. I'm gonna copy this into the other symmetry, the house symmetry. I'm gonna zero out the angle, make it larger. All right, something like that. Whoops, forgot to turn my deformers back on. What's up, rude dude? Yeah, I suppose I could. Not sure if I need to, although it'd be nice to get a little bit more of it in this area where the character isn't. Sure, let's try that. Oh, and I did it again. Gotta leave those deformers on. I don't love the position of that hand with the roof. It needs to like overlap differently. All right, some adjustments. The position of the hand and the size and position of the roof. Let's see how that plays out. That's better. There's some weird overlapping and stuff going on there. All right, little tile texture for the roof. What do you think? Was that the little bit of detail that we needed? Let's try it like this. All right, let's see how this does. This might look really terrible, actually, but let's give it a shot. So we didn't get anything with that first pass. Yeah, and that just looks bad. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it just as a subtle kind of 2D texture. Let's try a slightly larger rendering. All right, could it be the final rendering? Cool. All right, let's do a little bit of color retouching in Photoshop. We'll call it a finished piece. Whoops, not a pict. A ping. All right. You know what? I've got to zoom in a little more. I thought it was final. I lied. I want to zoom in a little more. And also, I think there's too much shadow up here. Sometimes all it takes is looking at it in a different program, probably with less clutter around. Like Cinema 4D has a very busy interface. Just looking at it here, you think, maybe it's not quite centered and it's not quite how I want it yet. So let's remedy that. I think that's better already. Glad we made that little adjustment. Get sort of a brighter bit to contrast here. I think the colors just work out better. Cool. All right. Replace. I know it sounds maybe counterintuitive, especially coming from a 3D workflow. Sometimes I actually like to add a little bit of noise to my renderings. Just give it a little bit of kind of personality and texture. This layer is just straight noise on the whole thing. The second layer, I've adjusted it. Double click, you can bring up this interface. And this will adjust how much of it is in the shadows or the highlights. But you see what I can do is really clear like this. I can take this, double click, and I can make the shadows of that layer disappear. Sorry, the highlights by dragging this white crayon, or the shadows just drop out. And you can hold Option or Alt and drag, and you can get sort of a softer gradation. So what I'm going to do with this one is drop this noise out of the light areas of the rendering. So that way they only appear in the shadows. And I'm going to turn it down a little bit. It's kind of a subtle effect. You could even, if you wanted it to be stronger, you could multiply it, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Nope, don't need that. All right, there we have it. Well, congratulations, you made it to the end. Thanks for sticking with me. If you found this video useful, if you like what you saw, share it with a pal. Don't hesitate to drop a comment and ask additional questions or see what's up. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to keep up with me and the work that I'm doing, hit me up at DLGNCE on Instagram and all the other social medias. The website is diligence.studio. And until next week, this is Stuart saying goodbye. See ya. Stay safe out there, y'all.